Fantastic. I'm going to start sharing my screens and all.
Okay, great. Welcome, Kristine, and thank you very much for joining us and helping us in this Zoom. And you can introduce yourself, please.
Yes, hello, my name is Kristine Custodio Surero. I officially by trade, my 9-to-5 job is I'm a senior paralegal and a business development director for a small ERISA law firm here in San Diego, California. I also teach, I'm an adjunct faculty at the University of San Diego School of Law Paralegal Program. I'm the Introduction to Law teacher. And they often book me as well as the last person who speaks to the students when they go into their internship program. So I like to say that the program director at the paralegal program likes to bookend me when the students start their journey and when they end their journey. So it's quite an interesting experience.
Thank you for joining us, and really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I often am asked to speak because I do have a nonprofit association presence. I served as the president of the California Alliance of Paralegal Associations, as well as the San Diego Paralegal Association. And I currently serve on the Professional Development Committee, where we handle all of the leadership development for the National Association of Legal Assistants. So that I serve on the local, the regional, and the national level for legal support for professionals. So you can see that this is very much a passion area for me.
Be active.
Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to put up my slides here that just to kind of use as a reference point, because I like to, just have information that just serves as a teaching aid, as a tool, and not necessarily to just oh, hold on, let me share this. Let me see here. Oops.
It did not work good. Okay.
Okay, so
share. Yeah.
It's actually interesting. It's not allowing me to share.
Really?
Yeah, so let me see if I can try that again. It wasn't allowing me to share my screen. Let's see if we can do that again. Because we had just tested this and it worked.
Yeah, it was working earlier.
It was working earlier. Yeah, part of the technical difficulty, but we'll do this again and see if we can share my screen.
Okay, now we are on. Yeah.
Are we on?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So. Oh, I don't know what, okay.
And everybody can write their question on the chat and we can later answer.
Yes, so this is a presentation that I've done before for another group, but it really resonates to so many groups, not just people in the legal support industry. I am very pleased to be speaking with folks that really have such an integral part in access to justice, and I'm sure some of you have heard that term before. And before we started, Zanab and I were actually speaking about this because there is such a big issue for people across, not just the state of California, but across the United States of America, where we have issues for people who feel like they really don't have access to justice or to a lawyer. And there's a lot of things that go into that, but a lot of times people say it's because there's a cost prohibitive impasse for them to really get into a lawyer, or they're not familiar with how to maneuver the system and so forth. So we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit today too as we move forward. This is just a slide on my background, a little bit of what I've mentioned to you all before, how I where I'm presently working, and all of the work that I do towards advancing legal support professionals and really participating in the legal environment, as you all do as translators. We actually are, one of our cases, we have a deposition that's coming up, and I actually had to seek a certified translator for some of the deponents that are being deposed next week. So we actually do utilize services for certified translators as well. I don't know if anyone has seen this image before, but I attended it was actually a business conference. Chase had put it on, and it was in Los Angeles. And one of the speakers, he was actually talking about business development and personal branding and so forth. But he said, things that really make us who we are, what we love to do, passionate about the work we do, kind of resonates on the scale here. And this is called a chart of consciousness. And you'll notice it's kind of in that funnel diagram there. And at the very top of the funnel is where we exist at our truest authentic self, and where we are really the happiest in the way we exist in our work that we do. Not just a job, but really in our true professions and what we really feel called to do. At the top of the scale, you'll see there's three terms that I love to introduce to people who are kind of looking at, their profession as a whole, how they exist in that profession. And it's peace, love, and joy. So people who are really, truly, doing the work that they're intended to do, really authentic work, purposeful and purpose-driven work, they really experience levels of peace, love, and joy. And maybe you've heard of this too, but mindfulness is something that is becoming a more present term in a lot of dialogues that are happening present day. And that's on purpose, because a lot of us, we get lost. Even today, for example, we're using this Zoom presentation, which is a great tool. It's a great resource for us to bridge ourselves. We're, not in the same location, but many of us get together, have virtual meetings, and we use the technology as tools to help connect us and to help improve us, just like you all are doing today. You are using technology to help propel yourselves in your professional development and leadership development. And I think that there's a way that we can use it, but sometimes technology can really overtake our lives if we're not very present and very cognizant of the way that we utilize these tools, because they are simply tools to assist us. I like this slide here too, because when I had referred back to those three top characteristics of people who are really, really in their zone, if you will, they know that they are really doing work that they are meant to do. And I love this quote because it says, if you can tune into your purpose and really align with it, setting goals so that your vision is an expression of that purpose, then life flows much more easily. And this is a quote from Jack Canfield, and he is a leadership guru in just the leadership industry in general. But this just really goes to say that when you become abundantly clear and really clear about who you are, what your expectations are, your life, you will see, is a lot more smooth in the way it flows. When I talk to the students at the University of San Diego, my introduction to law students, I do a lot of coaching with them, career coaching and professional development. And oftentimes, because these folks are very new into the field, they are exploring their profession and their journey. And so one of the exercises I have them do early on, and for those of you, I'm not sure where you are in terms of your career, if you're starting off, if you're kind of mid-level, if you're advanced, but it's always a good thing to do. And I do this for myself in January, where I kind of practice mindfulness, and I sit down and I really thoughtfully and considerately think about what is it that I'm trying to do for my career, for myself, for my life in the upcoming year, in those upcoming months. So I sit down and I come up with a word. A lot of you think of, like New Year's resolutions when January comes around, and people say, oh, like, for example, people say, oh, I'm going to lose 10 pounds or 20 pounds as a New Year's resolution. But sometimes those things go to pass and we lose sight of them. So I like to actually look for a word that's going to be kind of my anchor for the year, where I can kind of align and look back and make sure all of the things that I'm doing, all of the commitments that I am scheduling for the year for myself are really going to align back to something that I have really sat down and thought about and really taken into account everything that's going on in my life, so that I can be very clear about how I want my goals to be set and how I want them to be achieved in those coming months and years. So I have my students do a career development plan. I think this is a really good exercise for anyone who is very interested in advancing their careers, finding themselves getting promotions, finding themselves expanding their opportunities. A career development plan, it simply is a tool where you, and I have people write this down, where you write down, and I break it down into 3 phases: 6 months, 1 year, and 5 years. So my students will start, in their first class, an introduction to law, and they start writing down 3 goals that they want to achieve in the next 6 months. And we go through and we revisit that by the end of the class. And I invite them to do that them to revisit that again at the end of their program. So they can see, if their goals are things that they have really accomplished or things that need to be kind of refined and reevaluated if it's not really anything that's serving them anymore at that time, because people change, especially when you have access to education. Another concept that I love to say to people who are really interested in advancing and growing themselves is, in order to really achieve true growth, to be comfortable with becoming uncomfortable, putting yourself in situations that are going to challenge you. Every day, every morning, I look forward to doing something that scares me. Really, something that scares me every day, because I know that that's going to challenge me to push outside of my comfort zone, to really get in tune with my skills, with my resources, because it's a lot of things that help me advance my goals. It's not just, the internal willpower or the sheer willpower that I have to advance my goals. There are many things that are going to impact me, say, achieving a promotion at work, or to pass an exam, or to become a certified, paralegal, or in your case, certified translators. There are certain steps that you're going to have to take in order to achieve those goals. And oftentimes that's going to involve resources, making sure that you have your schedules coordinated, you have money saved up for these goals, that you have access to networks that are going to help you to advance in these goals. So, some folks say to me when I tell them, hey, you know what, your networks are really going to be hugely important for you, especially as professionals, especially if you're part of associations, professional trade associations. Your network is your net worth. And you truly have to make sure that you pay attention and really, I don't know if you've heard of this saying, but it really rings true. Wherever you focus your energy is what grows. So when you focus your energy on building a network, a really solid network that's going to serve and align with who you are as a person and what you're trying to achieve with your goals, it will, I guarantee you, it will serve you well. That's what I've done in my own career. I don't, as part of my background, I never really even thought I was going to go into the legal field. When I was the age of 16, I told my mother, my mother was a tiger mom. I don't know if you know that term, but she was very, very involved in my academic upbringing and very involved in my life in general, and really wanted to guide me to becoming very successful, because my mother was an immigrant to this country. She came here with a college degree, $200 in her pocket, and not knowing anyone. Speaking the English was her second language. She came to here as an immigrant, a trailblazer, a powerhouse, a future business owner. She embedded in me a lot of principles that would help me achieve success, especially as the first generation born here from immigrant parents. So she, when I told her at the age of 16, I said, Mom, I want to be a civil rights attorney. My mother said, oh, no, you're going to be poor your whole life. You're going into the medical field. That's what can you imagine me at 16 years old, my dashed dreams of becoming a civil rights attorney to really help and champion people who need help, who really need help, whose civil rights are being violated, trampled upon. And the well-intended tiger mother said, no, not happening. But it's so funny, because how circuitous and how serendipitous is it that I actually found myself so active in the legal community. It just, by so many, happenstance of circumstances, when my mother, who started a business after my sister and I went to college, she started a small business and became very successful. And she actually fell ill in my senior year of college. So because my mom really wanted to guide me into the medical field, I was actually studying for my master's in physical therapy. And when my mom fell ill, I had to move back home to help her with her business. And that really, that derailed a lot of the goals that I had set myself for becoming, a professional in physical therapy. I wanted to go that way and eventually into my doctorate. And when I landed back in San Diego, taking care of my mother, there were no physical therapy schools around here. So I kind of had to pivot and be agile. And I love that word, agile. I share with my students that I'm very obsessed with reading Harvard Business Review. I'm very much a business person, just like my mom, surprisingly enough. And I read an article from Harvard Business Review that said the most common characteristic of the most successful CEOs, what do you think that is? Agility. And we can really take that away and learn something from that and apply that to our own lives. Because when we are agile, meaning flexible, when things come to us and they're presented to us in a way that may be challenging to us or uncomfortable to us, having that skill of agility and being able to pivot to where we need to be in order to succeed will help you achieve your goals. And to my point, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. This is where real growth happens for you. Learning, even like what you're doing, you know, learning, maneuvering your way through becoming professionals in being translators. I hope that you all take such pride and such joy in the work that you do, because you are such an integral part of access to justice. You are serving people who need assistance in whatever capacity. Well, I know, like I had mentioned to you, we in legal use you folks to help us with clients who have legal rights, who have cases that they need assistance with. So I hope that all of you understand your importance in your profession, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today to talk about how is it that we can really invest in ourselves, invest in our professions, and invest in how we can become excellent leaders and stewards of our talents. You are using your talents in the advancement and in serving other people. So I really admire you all for that. Moving forward, as I had mentioned the word mindfulness, and that it's becoming almost like a buzzword in the national discourse here in the United States. And I think that is on purpose. And I want to, again, address the issue of the overuse of technology, or maybe not necessarily the overuse, or perhaps it's the mindlessness in the use of technology, because sometimes we can just be, and I've seen memes online on this, where families are in the same household, they're trying to get each other, together for having dinner, and they're texting each other. People are not even talking to each other anymore. They're texting each other under the same roof to gather together to share, break bread together. And that just kind of made me take pause in the way that I utilize technology to assist me in me achieving my goals in my life. The advent of this wonderful handheld device, yes, it was intended to connect people across the globe, right? That was the intent, was to connect us. But so many reports now that I see, actually I was just watching one of my favorite shows, CBS Sunday Morning, and they were talking about a very alarming statistic. And I want to bring this up under the section of mindfulness as we discuss this under our leadership and professional development. The suicide rate in this country has shot up immensely. I think it has almost doubled in the past 2 decades. And I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not purporting to say this is why the suicide rate in this country is climbing at such drastic numbers. But another alarming statistic that they shared on this piece on the suicide rate in this country is that the suicide rate is actually exceeding the homicide rate in this country. People are taking their own lives, and that is very problematic, very problematic. And the reason I bring up this word mindfulness at this time is because I want to ask each of you and challenge each of you on a daily basis. Like I shared with you, when I wake up every day, I think of a way. I spend about 30 minutes practicing mindfulness, and that can really manifest in many ways for us. Whatever works for you. For me, it requires me to sit still, silently, oftentimes with my mind, my eyes closed and devices off, no technology around me. And sometimes I will turn on, some sort of very calming music. And I think to myself, what is it that I am trying to accomplish today? What is it that I want to accomplish today in terms of my success? And that doesn't always mean, oh, these are, the things on my calendar that I have to accomplish. Of course, just like today, I had set an intention today to have a really great time with all of you in helping you to, really solidify who you are as professionals and where you're going to take this. Where do you want to take this for the rest of this year? As we sit here in January 2020, upon the dawn of a new decade, where are you trying to take yourself? Where are you trying to take your career, your profession, each other? You've come together as a group to advance yourselves. So I want you to really challenge yourself. If a career development plan is going to help you do that, I invite you to do that as well. I can share with you my email information, contact information is at the end of these slides. So please feel free to contact me. But I invite you to really take that time to really Figure out what is it that you are trying to do with your skills, with your lives, and being mindful, whatever that is for you. You know, like I said, for me, about 30 minutes, first thing, as soon as I wake up, I'm already asking myself, what is it that I can do today to make myself better? What is it that I can make myself better from yesterday? And how is it that I can really use my gifts and talents and skills to really live to the fullest capacity in my life? So there is a really neat video by, I don't know if you've heard of him, but his name is Deepak Chopra. He's actually a medical doctor who started a wellness center here in Carlsbad, California. I'm not going to play it today, but I want you to look that up at your own leisure. It's available on YouTube, and it's called I Am. And there's one actually for folks who work at desk jobs, because oftentimes we can get caught up, you know, just work, 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 work. Americans, incidentally, work the most out of all countries in the globe. We work the most and take the least breaks. Did you know, folks, our full-time employees, who are incidentally the most protected people in the United States, employees, they are typically entitled to time off. Here in California, in San Diego specifically, there's new legislation here that requires employers to provide employees, full-time employees, with 3 days of sick leave. So they're required to provide those to their employees. And I'm bringing up that because paid time off is often times an employee benefit for workers, for employees. And you know what? Even though you get paid time off, do you think most Americans use their paid time off? They don't. Isn't that interesting? People do not actually invest in themselves, in regenerating themselves, in re-energizing themselves, in becoming mindful in the way that they approach their skills, who they are, how they express those skills. So I invite you to look up that video on YouTube. It's by Deepak Chopra, and that's Deepakchopra, and it's called I Am. And they actually, he has one that's specific for people who are very busy professionals, and it kind of guides you through a short exercise where you kind of just ground and center yourself and be thoughtful about who you are. And really, you know, in terms of advancing your careers, I know that Zanab and I, when we had talked, she said she's really setting some really great goals for herself. And I'm so proud of her for really taking the time and setting those intentions to say and out loud that I want to accomplish, you know, X before the end of the year. And I'm going to do it by accessing these resources. But for me, it's like, I really like to be abundantly clear about who I am so that I can find goals that align back with my word. And my word this year in January that I picked is collaborate. I'm looking at collaborating with other folks who are like-minded like me about advancing other people in their lives, in their careers, so that we can really be the most authentic and purposeful people and be of service for others. You know, one of the things that I really learned from my parents, who just both passed, my dad just passed away in November, my mom passed away just a year and a half before that. And one of the greatest lessons they had learned, left with me in terms of their legacy is be useful. Make sure your life is of use to others. And so with that said, the words that I identify the most with who I am and authentically is coach, educator, and change agent. I love to help people make changes, big changes, and changes that really last and sustain in their lives. I love to help people find, you know, really out authentically who they are and what they want to do with these skills. This is a really interesting adage, you know, from Socrates that I love to share with my students, because, you know, when you really get down to the nitty gritty of it, of who you are, know thyself. Really, who are you truly? You know, when I started off, I was being guided by a tiger mother who wanted me to go into medicine, and I thought that's what I wanted to. You know, I thought that is really what I wanted. But when I really dug deep and I really kind of uncovered all of the layers there, like peeling back an onion, you know, what really sat at the core of that was my servant's heart. Meaning, I am not myself and I'm not at my best unless I feel useful or of service to others. That is my authentic core being. It is different for all of us, but for me, I know that I have to be of service to others. So be sure that you really do the work to know who you are. And, you know, and I shared the story about my mother being an immigrant in this country and how she has impacted my life story, how she's left such a great and inspiring legacy, not just for myself, people who have known her. This is a quote that I came across at another conference. No history, no self. No history, no self. And when I was growing up, I really didn't have any people who looked like me that were teaching me, who were in upper education like me. So it was very challenging to really integrate, my life story, the story of my mother who really, was a trailblazer and really overcame such great odds to become extremely successful and to be able to provide for others. My mother was so influential and impactful in other people's lives, not just in her own immediate families. One of her legacies was she was able to provide scholarships. And there was one particular boy that I remember vividly. My mother actually sent him through engineering school back in the Philippines because she was able to utilize all of her success and all of her hard work and all of the things that she had learned and imparted to me to be able to use her resources to really help and uplift and empower other people, especially by way of education. So I think this is a really important thing to discuss at this point. This is an example of what I was able to find and eventually kind of look at in terms of people who look like me, who were doing amazing work. They were doing work, and people, like I said, I didn't have role models like this in my public schooling and when I went to college, who I knew were doing work at the NASA level. They were people who are part of my Filipino Women's Network. This is a global networking organization. People that I have met through this organization are the trailblazers like my mother, and they're doing great things in STEM, like science, technology, engineering, and math. They are in medicine. They are doing just amazing, amazing things. And I actually get to help other people in mentoring them. You'll see on the slide here, you'll see all different age groups, all different people who come from different parts of the world helping each other. I think mentoring is a really important thing. And if you don't have mentors, I would hope that all of you on today's Zoom call have a mentor. And if you don't, now is the time to really look for who those are. My students, when I mention this in class, they say to me, well, I'm new, I'm just starting off in the legal field. I don't really know, anyone. I don't know how to ask someone to be a mentor. You'd be really surprised that if you start kind of associating with people who are in your profession, or even, this is another tip that I give to them, are you all on LinkedIn? Because I certainly hope you're all on LinkedIn. If you are not, please start a professional LinkedIn profile. Invest in a professional headshot and make sure that all of your information on LinkedIn is up to date and current, because this is one of the best ways that I have found and my students have found to find other people that they can ask to be their mentor. And how you start the conversation, this is a really great, and I like to call this, because my class is very short. It's 4 weeks long. We only meet twice a week, so it's 8 weeks. But every class, I make sure I do a networking hack with them. So my networking hack with them is, one, make sure you have a LinkedIn profile, a professional headshot, and that you're utilizing LinkedIn and it's current, and use it to professionally network. And what do I mean by that? You can find anyone on LinkedIn, and if you have a goal to be someone like any of the people that I have mentioned, like people who are on the slide right now, people who are at NASA, who are doing amazing things, and you have an interest to connect with them, if you find someone who's connected on your own network, you can ask for introductions to these folks. And typically what I tell my students is reach out and say, hey, I'd really like to conduct an informational interview on you. I would love to spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes, if you have the time, to interview you on how you achieved the success in your life to become who you are today. And oftentimes those people will agree, and they will invest in kind of sharing their trajectory to their career success. And I think that is one of the best tools to use as people who are looking to advance themselves and to grow themselves, is to utilize LinkedIn and to really reach out and do informational interviews with people that you really want to be like or who you admire. I think that is a great free tool because it's something that you don't actually have to pay for. I mean, you can use your own network to reach out to others. at this time, I wanted to come discuss your mission. And as I had mentioned earlier, I really am clear about who I am and what my mission statement is. And you may have heard of a mission statement in the context of a business, right? Because oftentimes businesses will have mission statements. We are here, and I'll use like Walt Disney Company. Everyone know Disneyland? Their mission statement is to make dreams come true. You know, I mean, that's pretty simple, short, but really think about everything that Disney does. Think about all the movies that they produce. Think about everything that their theme parks and everything like that. Their mission statement is to make dreams come true. And so they align everything, every project, people that they hire, everything that is affiliated with Disney, it aligns back to that mission. And I invite people to do their own personal mission statements, their own vision statements about what is that expression of who you are with the skills that you have been given. You know, if you are looking to really make a big impact and a difference in people's lives, how is that going to exist for you? And what can you align back to in terms of a very short and succinct mission statement? Mine is to be in service to others. That's mine. My mission statement for myself, for my overarching goal in life, is to make sure that every commitment, every goal, everything that I do with intention, with great intention, aligns back to my mission statement of being of service to other people. So what is that mission statement for you? What does that look like in terms of your own career, where you are now, what you hope to accomplish? Because as you all know, we don't get a do-over button in life. We get one life, you know, and we want to make sure that this life is used well. And this is why I say use great intention, do it on a daily edge. Here's a little plug that I'm going to do for some books, because I really do believe as an educator, and my mother, and in fact, before she was a small business owner, she was a teacher. No surprise that I ended up becoming a teacher like my mom. But I like to, so I really do. I believe that books change lives, and I like to recommend books to folks. I was part of a leadership group, a mastermind group here in San Diego, and we focused on leadership development for ourselves. So we were folks from all different industries, and we met once a week, and we got together and we talked about different books that we had read. And one of them that really made an impact for me was called The Slight Edge, a really great book. And what that focused on was, it is all the little things that we do in life that amount to the great things in life. All of the little things we do every day, all of our little habits that we have every day is what amounts to the great things in life. Because seconds become minutes, minutes become hours, hours become days, days become months, and months become years. It is that slight edge concept of the little choices that we make every day, like waking up and starting your day with being intentional and being mindful and being thoughtful of the way that your day is going to take shape. Sometimes we can't control some of the things in our life. We can't control other people or things that happen to us, but we can control our attitudes. And this is why I like to bring up that word agile. Agile means I am able to take what is happening to me, good, bad, or indifferent, and I am able to position myself in a way that will help me get to the next step so that I can accomplish my goals. Because we cannot be rigid, okay, right? Because that's the complete antithesis of agility is rigidity. If we are rigid, we are not able to position ourselves in a way that we need to be in order to accomplish our goals. So it is really important that when you set your mission, when you set your vision, that you are very intentional, very agile, and that when you, are looking at your day-to-day happenings, that you are being mindful of the small things in life. Again, The Slight Edge. It's a great book available in any bookstore or Amazon, The Slight Edge. Well, this is what I was mentioning earlier, that we really do have one life, you know, and I love this because this, you know, I'm a real quotes person, and actually I use quotes to help me facilitate some of my mindfulness practice. So what I really just think about for those 30 minutes. And this one really, you know, taught me a lot, because, you know, sometimes we can be so mindless in the way that we utilize our, you know, for me, it's like I tend to be on social media a lot. I have a professional website where I post a lot of leadership and professional development blog posts. And I use social media to kind of push out that messaging. And sometimes I can find myself, doing quote unquote research, on social media, where an hour later, what happens? Wow, I lost an hour. And I was not mindful about myself and my activities, especially utilizing technology and social media. That can be a big, big problem for people. So, just this quote here, tell me, what is it that you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? To become really settled and really thoughtful about what you are doing with the way that you are programming, not your life and your goals, but also what kind of books are you reading? What kind of programming are you receiving in terms of who is speaking into you? Who are you listening to? What sources? Because I mentioned social media. I mean, it can be a really good thing. That's where I read a lot of my Harvard Business Review articles. That's where I read a lot of, I love to do, my major in college was human development. So I'm very interested. That was a cross-disciplinary major where I am very interested not only in natural science. I'm very interested in the way the world operates around me and the way that impacts humans as they grow and develop. So I'm constantly reading articles, research from other associations even, I love reading the medical journals, articles that get put out. An example of that is I was reading an article because of my past employment experience with physical therapy. I was reading an article in the Journal of American Medicine that was talking about stroke patients and how music could be used to help rehabilitate stroke patients to acquire, and they were specifically talking about stroke patients who were experiencing aphasia, which is the inability to speak essentially. And music was being used in order to rewire the synaptic connections in their brains to teach them how to regain speech. And I was like, wow, this is fascinating. I'm a legal support professional. I teach and I do this, but these are things that still impact me in the way that the brain works, in the way that we can really condition ourselves to become very successful in life. Think about it. These people who have had these really traumatic medical injuries are able to utilize things like music to help them heal, to help them maneuver through rehabilitation into building themselves up again. In our lives, when we are trying to program ourselves, when we are looking at things that are feeding us, books, podcasts, television programs, research, whatever it is, that people, right? Having people around you, this is actually a good time to take stock in who is it that surrounds you? Who is it that speaks into you? Are there people who are speaking into you that are not positive? Are there people who are speaking into you that are not assisting you and elevating and empowering you into achieving your goals? Because think about it. My well-intended mother at the age of 16 did what to me? She squashed my goals and my dreams of becoming a civil rights attorney. That was something that was embedded in my heart, that was authentic to me. And eventually I found myself back to that dream, where I am involved in the legal system, the justice system. But, take this time to think about who are those people that are really speaking into you? Are you surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded and right-minded? Are you putting yourself around people who are uplifting you rather than dragging you down? Because that is a really important thing. The people that this is another great quote that I've heard, and it's the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most is who you will become. Think about that. Another way to say that is you become the people that you hang with the most, right? Birds of a feather flock together. Think about that. Think about the people that you are surrounding yourself with. This is a choice, people. If your friends list does not include people who are positive, who are championing you, cheerleading you, you need a new list. So that will probably be something that you need to take stock in your own personal lives. Again, that includes mentors, people that you intentionally bring into your life to help you to progress. I still, even after I've been in the legal industry for over 15 years, and I still have 5 mentors that I rely on. When I was a very young paralegal back in the day, I made sure, because that was a common thing that a lot of folks told me, is like, find a mentor, find a mentor. And so I did. I found 5, and they are still my mentors to this day. One of them helped me actually prepare, because I'm a litigation paralegal, and I actually go to trial and help people with, championing their legal rights by going through the litigation process in the court system. And this person that I selected as my, or, who agreed to be my litigation trial mentor, actually, when I was a very young paralegal, she would come into my office. We had a trial coming up, and she came into my office over the course of the weekend, 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. And she came in and she coached me and trained me for 2 straight days, 8 hours each day, on how to maneuver through that process. And many of us know this too, especially those of us in our profession who are just starting off or trying to break in. Sometimes we find impasses or difficulties in accessing or breaking through into that profession, into our respective profession. But when you find people who have been there successfully, who can help you, take you under their wing, and to give you tips, tricks, and guidance, that's the thing that I really admire and really appreciate about my mentors the most. Yes, while it is, they teach me skills, right, to make me successful in my job. That's great. A mentor, yeah, they should do that, right? And my mentor did that for me for my first trial, and it was amazing. I would never have had that kind of hands-on, hand-holding kind of education without that mentor to fill that in me. However, what I find and appreciate the most of my mentors now, 15 years later, is their honesty, their candor, and their wisdom. Because sometimes we're going to go through situations where, even ethically, there can be some ethical, maybe touchy situations that you're going to go through, and you're like, I don't know how to handle this. Someone's asking me to do something that doesn't pass the gut test. And that gut test is like, oh, that doesn't feel good in my stomach. You feel like those kind of queasy feelings when someone asks you to do something. I always call that my gut check. And that's usually the best because, in legal, we actually have guidelines as to how to handle other people's cases, because we act as fiduciaries. We act at a higher standard for people because we're handling very important legal matters for them, and that can have really big impacts on their lives. And so we have ethical obligations as legal professionals to follow. But even without those, I use the gut test, because if it doesn't feel right in my gut, it's probably not right. And sometimes maneuvering those situations, like if someone's asking you to do something that does not pass the gut check test, it can be very delicate to maneuver around those situations. So asking folks who've maybe been there, done that, how did you handle a difficult situation? Also, another very good thing is these folks can really assist in helping you to advance your career. I mentored a person very long ago when I was the president of the Paralegal Association, and she actually asked me to coach her for her first interview when she was moving out of the legal environment into a corporate environment, using her legal skills as the kind of the foundation of that job. And I did coach her on that. But I told her, I said, at this point, because it was a multinational it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And I said, at this point, when they're interviewing you, they're not really they're not really looking at your skills. They already know you have your skills. And you know how I knew that? She actually used her power of networking. She had someone within our legal network that knew the hiring manager of that company. And so she utilized that connection to ask the person who knew the hiring manager to assist with getting her an interview, which worked, which was helpful because she had that direct connection. She had a personal reference, a word of mouth reference to this person who was doing the hiring. And so once I started coaching her, we spent 3 hours in my conference room the night before her interview. And you know what I really focused her on? It wasn't really her skill set. And I'm not trying to discount how important it is for us as professionals to really be solid in our skills in whatever our profession is, legal, in translation, knowing your rules, knowing people's rights, so forth. But what I really focused her on in those 3 hours in her coaching session was attitude. I said, at this point, they're not looking at your skills. They're looking for, are you the right fit for this company? It is very expensive. And, at my law firm, I'm actually part of the hiring team. So I'm the one who kind of looks at resumes, interviews people. We talk about who we're going to hire, making offers and so forth. I'm part of that process. And I know, and I know this to be true for others, because I've actually also taken some HR training at UCSD along with my paralegal training. People are looking for a good fit because it is expensive to hire people. It is expensive to hire and fire people. So understanding that attitude is everything. Attitude is everything. Because if you show up into the world and you are a no, everything's going to be a no to you. And what I mean by that is, well, do I think I can accomplish becoming, this person at this multi-billion dollar, multinational corporation? Do I think I can become, one of the 3 people in their legal department? If my answer is no, guess what? It's not going to happen. You have to understand that attitude plays a huge role in your success, not just in your life, but in your professional career. Attitude is everything. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you have the worst attitude, no one wants to work with you. No one wants to work with you. So attitude. We coached her, can you imagine, for 3 hours on why I am the best fit, how I can work with anybody, how I can work with difficult people. I can work with people who are yelling. I can work with people who don't respond. I can work with people who are indecisive. She really honed into that. And you know what? When she finished her interview, she said with confidence, she's like, I nailed that. I nailed it. And a few days later, I found out from her, she had actually gotten offered the job. And she actually was one of 3 people in Walt Disney Company. Can you imagine? She became one of the 3 people in the litigation department of Walt Disney. She told me, she's like, how cool. I get to go to Disneyland every day. I was like, that's pretty neat. That was her dream job. She actually accomplished that as a goal she set for herself because she invested in herself. She was abundantly clear about who she was, who she wanted to be, what she wanted to become, who she surrounded herself with, what she wanted out of her one wild and precious life. And she did it. And she recently had the opportunity. What's so cool, and I'm going to share this with you all because I want you all to have access to this as well. She actually told me there was probably a few months ago, I got a text from her out of the blue and she's like, hey, do you think I should apply for this position? And I'm like, ooh, well, what is it? And she told me the title of the position. I said, well, let me ask you this question, because I keep telling her I'm one of her mentors still, obviously I still coach her and so forth. I said, what do you want to accomplish out of, when she first was interviewing for this company, I said, what do you want to accomplish out of this? Do you want to be one of the, in the C-suite of Walt Disney Company? Is that something that is a goal of yours? And she said, yeah, I would love for that to happen. I said, you can make that happen, but you have to position yourself mentally and with who you surround yourself with to find yourself on that path. So when she asked me about this job, I said, 100% you should do it if it still meets with your goal, if this is still your goal of becoming part of the C-suite of Walt Disney Company. If you want to reach the levels of executive leadership of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, multinational corporation, you need to make sure that this is what you truly want and that you are willing to put yourself on a path where you are comfortable with being uncomfortable, because she's leaving legal, which is her background, and she went into her position now. She actually successfully, because I coached her again on for her interview, and she actually got the job, and she was offered the position of employee relations manager for Walt Disney Company. So she used all of her background, all of her skills, all of her life experience, all of her desires that she really saw for her skills of who she was, into becoming someone on a path to where she thinks she can access, she believes that she can access, becoming an executive leader of this company. She's well on her way. So, I think this is something that we really need to focus on with ourselves. Who are you surrounding yourselves with? Who is it that is speaking into you? Who is it that you have access to that's going to give you tools, resources, connections? Do you know that's one of the greatest things that I have experienced in my own life, is that my mentors really opened up so many doors for me. Because remember, I wasn't intended to go into this field. And because of the mentors that I had that were giving me opportunities, access to opportunities, I became a published author in a leadership book. I became a speaker across the United States. I get asked to speak across the United States. I've been on radio. I've been on TV. I've been on podcasts. This is because I firmly believe it's because I have had very great mentors who really open up opportunities and give me access to these wonderful opportunities. And when you think that you are not enough, and this is something that I did talk to Sarah about too, because we all have that self-doubt. We all have that, like with my mom, oh, you are not going to be a civil rights lawyer because you'll be poor. That's the type of programming I don't want to put into myself. Though my mother was well-intended, I don't want to have that kind of doubt put into something that I know that I can accomplish and I know to be true for myself. Again, with your network, be sure that you're surrounding yourself with people where they feed you. Books feed you. The podcast tapes, whatever you're listening to, shows that you're watching, these things are going to help advance you. This is another quote that I really love. Do what you can with what you have and where you are. Because people sometimes think, oh, I have to wait for perfection in order to have success. And that is blatantly and absolutely false. Do what you can with what you have and where you are. And that is the slight edge. Start. Just start. You know, you don't need to be perfect in order to have success. These are some of the organizations that I make sure I surround myself in my own profession. I know you have that too. Do you have a little, I'm so excited for the folks on this Zoom call today, because you all you're trailblazing, you're pioneering something for yourselves. You know, you all have something in common with each other, and you can start a really great organization that really moves the ball forward for what you are trying to do with your profession. Find those people. Find them on a local level, find them on a regional level, find them on a national level. And I know that that's going to be something that is going to help you advance your leadership and your professional development. Here are just some strategies for you. And of course, I think, Zainab, you have the PowerPoint, so you can feel free to pass that along to the folks if
Yeah,
they should
sure.
want
Thank
it.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also, my email address is at the end here, and I'm being cognizant of our time. So I do see that we are going to be wrapping up here, because I do want to leave a little bit of time if people have questions for me or some ideas to bounce around, because I do like it to be a discussion. While I like to present on all these, concepts and things like that, I want to make sure that this is something that really resonates with you. How can you apply this to yourselves and use this to help advance yourselves and others? Also, what I said about mentors, do not be afraid. Just ask. The president of our paralegal association here, she's notorious for saying this: get your ask on. Just ask. Because the worst they can say is no, and what does that do? You're still in the same position. So what? You know, a great teacher once told me, failure is a part of success. The most important part is what? Getting back up. Get back up. This is another, you notice I put that Theodore Roosevelt quote on the screen there. But another one is this great story I heard about Teddy Roosevelt going back to his all-boys school that he went to, prep school, before he went on to become this really famous person. I mean, oh, actually, no, this is a Winston Churchill quote. He went back to his prep school in the UK after, staring the Nazis down in their face, basically, and, going through the World War II and stuff. But he went back to his prep school, and he said to the boys that he was speaking to, they asked him back to talk to them about how is it that we can really live our lives in such a great way like you did. And he said, and he went up there, it's funny, because he basically walked onto the stage, stood in front of the mic, he's holding his cigar, and he's standing in front of this mic in front of all these boys at this prep school. And all he says is, never, never, never give up. And he walked off the stage. That's all he said. That was his words of advice to this auditorium full of boys in this prep school from where he was educated. And he said, never, never, never give up. And with that, I'd like to open for discussion. If we have any questions or any ideas that we'd like to bounce around, any success stories of anyone on the Zoom call. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave you with this last quote, because this is something that I resonate with, because the definition of success is so different for all of us. And I'll read this out loud to you so that you can we'll close today kind of thinking about the rest of our Sunday on what is success to us. And this is by the famous American essayist, Ralph Waldo Emerson. And this goes to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. And so with that, my friends, I will now provide you with my contact information here. I do have a website, KristineCustodio.com, and that's my email. You can find me in all of these social media outlets. But otherwise, thank you so much, Sanam, for inviting me to speak with you.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. I really love that we have a lot of things in common, most of us here.
Yes,
you know, having a mentor is great. And then I think for me, I have more than one in like
okay.
There is one that helps me raise my children. There is one that helps me with my work and study. And, you know, and it's surrounding yourself with positive people who encourage you and pull you up every time you feel down. Because we have those moments where we feel like we didn't do anything in our life and feel like we did not succeed, and we need people to pull up. And that's like, I will tell you something I like. No one has ever became poor from by giving. This is what I believe. Giving,
absolutely.
The more you give, the more you get.
Absolutely.
I believe in that,
yeah. Like I think it's a medicine to your like heart when you feel that you help somebody. Give up. This is when you have all this energy for yourself too.
Self-love, yes, because self-care there's this thing, it's called, another quote is, the cup runneth over. What's in the cup fills you. What runneth over is for everyone else. You know, you have to it's kind of like in the airplane when they're giving the emergency announcement, when the mask falls, put it on yourself first and then help others. Because if you are not well, guess what? You must take care of yourself first. It's not selfish, it's selfless.
Okay, friends, you can unmute yourself if you have a question. I see that Amin had a question.
Thank you, Kristine. That was really an outstanding presentation. My question is just regarding the mentors. I mean, are there any criteria that we have to pick in choosing our mentors? I mean, anybody can be your mentor. Do we have to look for the needs we have to? How do we select mentors to be?
That is a really good question. So oftentimes I say, do your research. It's like when you prepare for an interview, do your homework, do your research. What resonates with you? This is why I say you have to go through that exercise of becoming abundantly clear, crystal clear with who you are, what your intentions are. Because when you can answer those questions about, what am I trying to do here with these skills? What are my goals that I'm trying to accomplish? It will help you kind of funnel down, who are those people that you want access to? Who do I admire the most? That might help you too. Kind of go on your LinkedIn profile, check out some people, look for some certain keywords that really interest you, or read. I read a lot. And I love reading about people, like autobiographies are my favorite. I love to read about people's life stories and how they got to where they got. You know, what was that success point for them? Who influenced them? For me, you know, I agree with Zanab. The mentors in your life should be personal and professional. You know, my mother was a huge mentor in my life, huge. You can see, you know, I have such a passion for business and helping people who are traditionally underrepresented in business. But really, it's going to be, a personal thing for you. Who really speaks to you the most? Who do you admire the most? Who do you want to be like the most? And when you find those people, look at their key characteristics and start writing those out and find people who embody that. Who are those people for you? But yeah, definitely, you should have personal and professional. I have 5. I still rely on those mentors to this day, 15 years later.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you, Amin. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have a question? Unmute yourself.
So waiting for another question, and I liked what you said about the attitude. I just want to share something that my grandmother used to tell me, which I keep with me all the time, and I hope you use it in your future presentation.
Don't look at this. I mean, I keep a pen and a paper.
Here we go. Please write this down because it's really good. I love it.
Yeah.
So my grandmother used to tell me all the time that your attitude determines your altitude.
Yes.
There we go. So I was like, wow, this is great, Grandma.
I like your great grandma.
Attitude determines your altitude.
Your attitude determines your altitude. 100%. Again, because if you think you can do it, 100% you can find yourself there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Discussion? I love this. You're all inspiring me. And I have a class tomorrow. It's great. I love it.
Actually, your presentation is for like a big conference. Like it's a motivational speaker. That's why
this is why I thought when I first met you are a great motivational speaker.
Here we go. That's how I picture.
I kept your contact on LinkedIn. How many years it's been since I saw
Oh, it's been several years now. Maybe like 5 years now.
Years. Yeah, it was in a conference.
It was in a conference.
I'm gonna contact you, and it was like 5 years ago.
Do you see that? Oh, to your point though, you see how your paths cross again. Our paths cross again. Even 5 years past, we still have each other in mind.
Yeah, we saw each other once. I heard your presentation, and you inspired me, and I thought, okay,
look at what you all are doing now.
Planning for this day. 5 years ago.
but look at it, planted a seed, and look at what we're doing here today. Because I really believe when I mentor and coach people, I say, look, I have one requirement. I require you to pass it, pay it forward. You must give others a hand up the way I gave you a hand up. So I don't believe in handouts. I believe in a hand up. We are here to help each other give resources, tools, access. This is how we really help each other become better people.
Nice thing about life that it's always teaching us something.
Yeah.
And I think the first person is passing this knowledge to others. I know the kids don't like to hear it. My kids are like, okay, fine. They will be sorry later. But I have others who are, inspired by me and like to hear my stories, and they're learning. And so, I'm happy. I don't post my stories and, teach anybody that doesn't want to.
Yeah.
If you want to take it.
Though, what's interesting though, you say that your children aren't listening, but they are. They are. They are little sponges, and they watch you, and they watch everything you do. And so when they see mom doing these amazing things on a Sunday, getting together people who are like-minded and right-minded and want to do better things for themselves and others, they see you. You're teaching many lessons. You're modeling.
Thank you.
They
So
hear you.
You waste your time on people instead of doing something for yourself. I said, I'm never wasting my time. Yesterday I was almost, crying, and I got into tears because I got this call from somebody I hardly know. And he said, you know what? There is this conference, we're talking about AB5 because we've been having difficulties as an independent contractor in California. I said, you know what? I see that you are interested in going, and I know financially maybe you cannot. There is a conference, and I'm going to pay for you. Go to this conference. I said, thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't need it like that bad. It's just that, sometimes you cannot do everything you want. You cannot attend like 10 conferences in a couple of months. But like, just him thinking about me. Like, also the other day when I started Zoom, he said, I will share half the price of Zoom. Just start something good for everybody. Like you will find people that you helped before, or just, they like you or whatever.
Remember what Kristine said, just start. Everything will follow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes goals, like, when we set up a goal, it's something like big, and you need to work on that really. So do we have to like set up like small goals with goal versus objectives? How about we set up like an objective to reach a goal?
Yeah. Can I give you a tip? Here's a really good tip.
Yeah, just not to get demotivated. That's my thing. So
yeah, because it can be overwhelming, right?
Here we go. That's true.
So this is exactly what the slight edge is. And the way I train people is I say, approach it like you're a project manager. Approach it like you're a project manager. I start with the end in mind. What am I trying to accomplish? And I break it down into phases. And this is why I teach in the career development plan, 6 months. And what am I, in that time, what am I trying to accomplish? 1 year. 5 years, but when I'm trying to reach a big goal, especially if there's a lot of moving pieces, I identify what is it going to take for me to accomplish this goal, and in doing that, set up. And what makes a goal? And everyone here, what makes a goal is a timeline. It's time bound. I set a time for it to happen. Have you heard of SMART goals? SMART is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound.
Correct.
They teach you this in MBA. This is like MBA speak, MBA school. But SMART goals. Yeah. These are great tools to kind of. Remember, I taught you that networking hack about LinkedIn. That's a really good one. Make sure you use that whenever you
LinkedIn, Facebook, Even
Yeah,
Twitter.
and you know what's really cool? If you don't have the LinkedIn app on your phone, get it, download it. At the search bar at the top, you'll see like a little Foursquare. If you click on that, it has a QR code and you can scan each other's codes and connect. You don't even need business cards anymore. It's so neat. But make sure I love that networking hack for everyone. But that's a great question. I mean, because it can be very, very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Especially if you have like a very big goal, like I'm going to become a certified translator or a certified paralegal.
Yeah.
That's hard because it requires exams, which is time, money, energy. It's all of it, you know. So just breaking it into bite-sized chunks.
Like objectives, like work on this, work on that one, get that too. Yeah.
So remember the slight edge. Every day counts. Every little thing counts. Yeah. The slight edge. Every little thing amounts to the great.
Okay. But by the way, I was able to find the slight edge online, and they do have a PDF, so we will be sharing it with the group.
Oh, wonderful. And you know, and that's another thing, like I had mentioned briefly in our discussion, is that I joined a leadership group. We call that a mastermind group, kind of like what you're doing now, where we meet. I personally selected a group that was with other industry professionals, not in my own industry, because I want to hear other perspectives, because I believe in innovation, and innovation requires, again, discomfort, right? You have to think about things that are not within my zone. I have to look at things that are outside. So this is why I'm a person who looks at every aspect of life.
The full picture.
Yes, holistically.
Holistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it would help me like develop myself and understand other people.
Yeah.
Something called NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming.
Yes.
This is something everybody have to read about or see the YouTubes. It will teach you how each person is programmed, how to reach out, how to make a connection, build, a bridge between if you want to become a leader, you have to study NLP. If you want to it's a nice study if you don't go too deep, but it's a very nice, interesting things to know about, because each of us is programmed in a way, by birth, by culture, by people around him. We have this program in our brain, and we follow it. And you can, if you want to change it, you can inspire other with it. It's an amazing thing that we have in our brain. So like I really encourage everybody to read.
But you know what becomes extremely important with that? Because NLP, yes, neuro-linguistic programming, it's important to understand like these different disciplines, modalities, how even me as a teacher, I have to understand how people learn, because I have to meet them where they are. The very important thing about NLP, about anything in any development, in any relationship, is active listening. You have to really be able to hear and listen and process and understand where people are coming from. Really.
Okay.
Active listening.
That's a good one.
Yes.
I was trying to define a leader. So what I came up with, because there are a lot of things to say in this field, what I came up with simply is that a leader is just somebody who has followers. Obviously, if you don't have followers, you're not a leader.
Not a leader.
Yeah, I mean, you can be a leader anyway. So my question is, we know that leadership, they do have different styles of leaders. Is there any specific style that you like? I mean, there are leaders who work with people. Is there any style that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I want you to look this up too. I know I can feel that Amin and I are research nerds. We like to research. I can tell already. But look up, I know, right? Look up Servant Leadership by Robert Greenlee.
Servant. Okay.
By Robert Greenlee. And really the concept with that, the crux of that type of leadership style is you really are empathetic, and you really listen to what others, you put others in front of you. You serve people. Yeah, so it's kind of that, and I really learned that because this is like a legacy thing from my family. My grandparents were like that. They were very well respected, very modest people, but very well respected in their community, very giving, even though they had, very modest, they were very generous and helping people all the time. And my mother imparted that. So my mother and father both imparted that to me. So I carry that a lot. Now I told you they passed away, and I'm like, that is their greatest legacy in me, is that I'm bringing that forward. you know,
Wow.
and that
It's
we are
important
of service
to
to
be
others.
modest as a leader, down to earth.
That's it. That's me.
That's you, yeah. You're right.
My best thing to describe is modest, humble. That's it. You know, that's
Yeah, you
wow.
like being smart is not enough.
True.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Being
We
rich
should be
is not
smart.
enough. You know,
Right.
you need people to feel that you are part of them. You're like them.
Absolutely.
You're a human like them.
You know, this is, I say this to a lot of people too. I said, you have really mastered life when you love and you can be loved. You know, really, when you can see and be seen. That's all people want in life. They just want to be heard. They want to be seen, that they matter. They matter.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
I'm going to turn off the recording now. If that's okay with you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate having you. And we can, of course, we can